Black folk don't do atheism. It's not absolutely true, but it's about as close to absolutely true as something could be, you know, these kinds of stereotypes.
I'm just gonna have to say most black folk don't do atheism, and if they do, they're not, you know, wearing t-shirts about it.
No, we don't do atheism. We know there's a God. We believe in him and praise Jesus Christ. We believe Father, Son, Holy Ghost, yes.
Most black people I know personally, they are Christians, Catholics.
Regardless of what diaspora we're talking about, whether it's in the islands, the South, the North, it's one of the great links, I think, in black folk is that it's the belief in God.
Most of the people that I know that's the same color like me believe in God.
I think there's this inbred, instilled fear of God, you know, among most black people that even if you think you're an atheist, you probably are not. Because somebody will beat it out of you.
I have had too many moments where I'm like, I'm certain that there is something. Is it sort of some white guy with a beard who sits on a cloud saying, you win, you lose, you know, sort of orchestrating like the giant conductor? No, I don't believe in that. But there must be some God force that's bigger than all of us.
My family, my extended family, to them, the fact that I don't go to church every Sunday to them feels probably like atheism. Like they don't, it's just not a concept that you would have your own belief system, that you would not just subscribe and just fall in.
I sometimes feel like the black community has a tendency to be a bit more closed-minded, especially when it comes to religion. I think a big part of that is that you know, that's something that kind of held us together when times were hard.
It's just not about God and believing in God. Church for the black community is a political place for action. Civil rights movement was all in churches. That was the safe meeting ground.
They know there's a spiritual being that watches over us and has helped us from the beginning of time. From slavery, civil rights, we survived so much hardship that we know on our own we couldn't have done it.
That idea of atheist, that there's nothing, that there is no divine that can help give meaning to the experiences of inequality and oppression, does seem to be constitutive of something that is not blackness.
Given that, it's just hard to say, well, you know, where would a black person find space to be atheist?
I study African American religion and culture, and I can tell you there's a long history of African American atheists and agnostics, including people like Frederick Douglass and others. You know, people who questioned whether or not there was a God precisely because of African American suffering. How can there be a God, right? A God who is supposed to be good, a God who is supposed to be just when white supremacy sort of dominates the planet, black people suffer this injustice, this physical violence, but also this violence that comes through discourses of black inferiority, et cetera, that are centuries old.
Can you tell me about, you know, some of the things he was posting on social media and what kind of led up to his arrest?
He was arrested because he was accused of making blasphemous posts on Facebook. I asked him, Mubarak, why are you doing this? He sighed and was like, I have so many reasons for being what I am today. People use religion to cover up their evil. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whatever. They use religion to steal. They use religion to kill. They use religion to bully. They use religion for power. He said, I cannot pretend about this. I have had this in my mind for so long. I cannot keep quiet again. I was on Facebook then and I saw those threads. Some people were posting his pictures. Millions of threads. They're going to kill him. They're going to chop his body. They're going to cut off his head. If he's not being killed, that something is going to happen. All those things. So I told him, come to Abuja immediately.
But before he could join his wife, Bala was arrested. I travelled to Kano State to meet the lawyer who wrote the petition that led to his detention. Kano State is one of the 12 states in northern Nigeria where Islamic law is practiced alongside the country's secular law.
This is the petition. The complaint is against Mubarak Bala for publicly insulting Prophet Muhammad on his Facebook page, contrary to Section 210 of the Penal Code, not Sharia law. They said Mubarak Bala was born and raised as a Muslim, but for his own personal reason, decided to leave Islam for atheism, and has since then been writing stops that are provocative to the Muslims. Among such stops is calling the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, with all sorts of denigrating names and other statements that will definitely incite Muslims and provoke them to take law into their hands, which may ultimately result into public disturbance and breach of peace. Fair comments is within the law. Insults is extending boundaries. In every religion, there's something that is sacred.
You saw the post here, the one that you just showed me, and you said that you were really offended when you saw it.
The whole community are offended.
Couldn't you have just blocked his page, closed your computer?
There are some insults that you cannot sleep when someone shouts it with you. As I'm talking to you now, I'm very much tensed.
You're tense now?
Of course, yes. Just reading all these posts make me unhappy. He crosses the line, touching someone that they hold dear, more than their mothers and fathers, more than anything in the world.
So in the petition he sent to the police, SS Umar accused Mubarak of insulting religion with the intent of causing a breach to the peace under Section 210 of the Kano State Penal Code. It was public knowledge at this point that Mubarak was no longer a Muslim.
How much more difficult and perhaps dangerous is it for you as a Muslim to declare that you don't have faith anymore?
Had he been, he would have been tried under Islamic law and would have faced the death penalty, as blasphemy is a capital offence. Given Mubarak's knowledge of tensions in the north, it made me wonder why he would decide to play with fire in this way. Perhaps he felt he was protected by the Nigerian constitution, which guarantees freedom of thought and expression. But human rights lawyer Adeola Oyinlade tells me that there are limitations in place as to how far these protections stretch. If you're deemed to have breached the peace, public health, public order, or public morality, then these guarantees no longer apply. But Mubarak's case is new territory.
We've not really had cases of blasphemy going even to the highest court of the land. So the court has not made specific decision on a specific blasphemy case so far in Nigeria.
And what exactly counts as blasphemy under the law?
In our laws, we have a penal code that applies in the north and a criminal code that applies in the south. That does not expressly mention blasphemy, but that looks at the ingredients of blasphemy. In the southern part of Nigeria, if you say something offensive with intention to create hatred to a class of people's religion, is an offense. Penal code says something similar. In the Sharia law of Kano State, for example, it went as far as mentioning if you say something against Holy Quran and the Prophet. So we don't have a unified definition of what constitutes blasphemy in Nigeria.
And doesn't that also just sort of leave room for abuse of these laws because they're not clearly defined?
Yes, when there is lacuna, then it has created opportunity for people to see things based on their own perspective and react in that way.
My journey continues in Imo State, southeastern Nigeria, where I'm meeting with Leo Igwe, a friend of Mubarak Bala and founder of the Humanist Association of Nigeria. Leo knows firsthand what it's like to be an atheist in the country.
Religion plays a lot of role in the everyday life of Nigerians. If you are the free-thinking type, life becomes a struggle. There is a lot of capital, social capital, in believing in God.
In this setting, Mubarak and Leo found in each other kindred spirits.
Listening to him gave me hope, made me have this sense of fulfillment. Yes, after all, I'm not that crazy person a lot of people think I am. And we started working together until he was arrested in 2020. This place is densely Christian. This is where I was born, this is where I grew up, and this is where I worked as a seminarian or somebody training to be a priest. One of the seminaries I attended, this is it. I started reading about humanism when I was in the seminary. Humanism resonated with me because it made me see religion as a human creation. There is that sense of a superior entity at the center. Human beings actually crafted that entity and sometimes are ready to sanction and sanctify the killing of human beings, the oppression of human beings in the name of that entity.
Mubarak's case has increased the strain being felt by atheists across the country. Meetings run by the Humanist Association offer a space where people feel safe to share their stories of oppression and intimidation. The association was founded by Leo in the 90s, but to get it officially recognized was a challenge. It took him about 17 years to hit upon a combination of words that satisfied the authorities.
We were submitting names. When I submit the name, Corporate Affairs will say I should rephrase. So I would do Association of Nigerian Humanists, Humanist Society of Nigeria. I tried all those combinations, with different lawyers. They couldn't register. It was tough, trying to bring people together and also trying to sometimes say who you are. It's only when I come in an environment like this that I laugh without looking at my back.
Are any of you guys feeling pressure or feeling threatened?
I used to work in the hospital, and the man made it mandatory that everybody must pray in the morning. Before you inject a patient, you must pray. When I now became like a full atheist, I stopped all these things and kind of impeded on my job. At some point, I had to just blend in. I have some guy told me that, do you go to church? I said, no, I don't go to church. Like, what? You're making me lose the love I have for you. Then I playfully said, I don't have church attire. The next day, he went to boutique and bought me clothes.
Why is it important that you are vocal about, I do not practice any of these beliefs?
I always say, you don't have to come out. I am an advocate of that. If you're still dependent on your boss to pay your salary, why do you have to tell your boss, no, I won't pray? But for how long? You understand? And to what extent?
Meeting with some of the members of the Humanist Association today has really sort of driven home how lonely it can be to be an atheist in this country. There's also a certain poignancy to the fact that they chose to hold the meeting here. This is Freedom Park, which used to be an old colonial prison. And there's a sort of irony to that this is one of the few places where, when they all gather together, they actually feel free.
The fear of not being able to speak your mind freely was really brought home to me when I met with Ibrahim, which is not his real name. In response to Mubarak's arrest, he posted online that no one should be threatened for speaking against the Prophet Muhammad, and because of this, he was forced to go into hiding.
I was accused of committing blasphemy. Once you're accused of blasphemy, that means you've committed treason. Around 3 a.m., I discovered that my house was on fire. I had to leave with only my phone and nothing else.
So they burned down your house?
Yes. Since Mubarak Bala was jailed, his arrest created a kind of panic amongst ex-Muslims in northern Nigeria. Nearly all of us. There are lots of us who decided to disengage from social media activities because, the emotion and outrage was so high that once people discover that you are not a Muslim, you are poised to be a target.
With Ibrahim's fears still ringing in my ears, I meet with the lead on Mubarak's defense team, James Ibor.
I'm an atheist myself, so most times when atheists are in trouble because of their belief, they reach out to me. Leo contacted me on the 28th of April 2020 that Mubarak has been abducted. Further inquiry revealed that he was arrested by the police. He was transferred to Kano State. He was detained and we could not reach out to him, we could not talk to him, we could not send people to him. In fact, initially when he was moved, it was difficult to even get them to admit that they had him. It took up to a month or thereabout to confirm that they were holding Mubarak. Now we started again the struggle to have access to him. He was denied access to his lawyers, he was denied access to family members. We contacted National Human Rights Commission and so many UN agencies mounted pressure to allow Mubarak have access to his lawyers and family.
The meeting with Mubarak's lawyer prompted me to seek out the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission to get clarity on how events actually unfolded.
Our office in Kano was asked to monitor and go and try to see him while he was in police detention in Kano. So that was how we started engaging the authorities to make sure that his constitutional rights of access to his lawyer and his family was restored to him. When we went to request for his release or his being charged to court, the explanation they gave us was that if he was allowed to go along the streets, maybe people will lynch him or mob him or something like that. So they were like saying it was like a protective kind of custody, that it was in his own interest that he was being detained.
Mubarak was arrested in April 2020, but wasn't able to see his lawyers until October that year. It took almost 2 years before he was arraigned or formally brought before the court to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty.
We're on our way to the courthouse, but before we get there, we're going to pick up Mubarak's lawyer. The official case starts today. Hi, James. We're just driving in. Morning, James.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you.
Mubarak's alleged crimes relate to posts published online, and yet where he created those posts is critical to his defense. If he did not post while he himself was in Kano State, his lawyers say that his arrest would have been unlawful.
If we prove our case and the court eventually agrees with us, he will be discharged and acquitted. Worst case scenario is that he will be convicted and the maximum sentence is 3 years imprisonment.
Mubarak has now been in prison for almost 2 years, so even if convicted, his team believe he will be free within a year.
Good morning.
We have actually agreed that Mubarak's case should be taken last.
Why? Why did you want it last?
Just because of the sensitive nature, so we have fewer persons in court.
The trial is on, and we are prepared to fight it even up to Supreme Court. If Mubarak is convicted, it will be a slap to the claim of religious freedom in Nigeria. And if he's acquitted, it will be a victory and a strong signal that there is hope in the campaign to separate religion from state politics. I consider it an honor to be providing legal services to Mubarak. I'm not just doing that for Mubarak, I'm doing it to all atheists in the whole world. I'm doing it for myself, I'm doing it for my children and my grandchildren.
Something is wrong. And until we begin to speak out, and speak out strongly and firmly, we will continue on this path of destruction. We have to work towards building a society where people can go and live anywhere they want to live without being scared because of who they are or the views they profess or the religious or non-religious beliefs they hold. Whatever it takes, I am ready to go that length as long as I'm alive, no matter the risk involved.
It's been an incredible first day here at Kano High Court. It should have been the first day in Mubarak Bala's trial, but he shocked everyone when the clerk was reading out the charges. He raised his hand and said, "I pray for conviction." He pled guilty to all 18 counts. Now, his lawyer tried to intervene, tried to persuade him to consider changing his plea. He tried to speak to the judge, but no one could change his mind. He was absolutely firm that he pled guilty. This decision is sure to send shockwaves. I'm astonished. This is not what I expected at all today.